Hello, welcome to a late night edition of Hotline Live with Record Sport. My name is Daniel Conn. I'm delighted to be joined live from Ibrox by the one and only Andy Newport. Andy, how's it going?
I'm very well, Daniel. Yourself, pal?
Very good, thanks. I appreciate you joining me. I know how hectic it can be post-match. Look, I think a lot of even positive Rangers fans would have accepted that Club Brugge were the favourites. You know, Rangers might not get through this tie, but I think even the most pessimistic fan would have been shocked by the opening 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a game that I think a significant number of Rangers fans sort of feared the worst coming into. But I don't think anyone foresaw the absolutely shambolic nature of that first 20 minutes. I mean, everything that could have went wrong did go wrong in that first 20 minutes. You know, you're talking about, we were here at the weekend to see the Alloa game, which we conceded one of the messiest goals you'll ever see. I think they superseded that with the opening goal they lost here tonight. I mean, Shambles doesn't cover it. I mean, long ball over the top. Giga's in control. Just has to sort of knock it back to Butland. But he looks up, sees Butland coming, and just stops running. But in the split second that he stops moving, Jack Butland pauses, hesitates, and starts backpedaling. Meanwhile, the Bruce players left in, 10 seconds to pick his spot and just calmly lobs it over it. I mean, and that right from the off, Ibrox has been a pretty toxic place this season. But wow, the reaction that goal got, just the sheer chaotic nature of it, produced quite the outburst, and things get worse. 3 minutes later, corner, somebody standing free in the box and knocks it into the net, and then get to 20 minutes. Just as Rangers are trying to rally, they're trying to build some momentum. Joe Rothwell heads a ball, a sort of loose ball, clear from his box. Danilo should have really been onto it, took care of it, but he's soft, he's control, and again it lets Bruges in, and what a strike it is to beat Jack Butland. And at half time, I was on blog duty tonight as well as the man ratings. And I wrote at that point you had to start seriously worrying about Russell Martin, because this is a guy that came in not to the most warmest reception from the Rangers supporter. I think the best you could say it was lukewarm. A lot of people were sceptical of his record down the road with MK Dons, with Swansea, with Southampton. Didn't think he had enough of a winning record to justify him being the Rangers manager. But quickly that has turned to outright hostility. I mean, when we sit in the gantry, I mean, maybe we're flavoured by the reaction of the people sitting around us, but it was, frothing. I mean, they were furious. They could not believe what they were watching. I think, it's one of these things that they talk about. One of the tenets of coaching a team of football is, when you're defending, you want to be, like a closed fist. You want your players all tucked in tight, and then when you're attacking, you want them to spread wide and get themselves out and make the use of the space in the pitch. It was opposite with Rangers at times.
I was going to say
they are on top of each other, trying to build up play. No movement, so slow. John Souttar, when he's trying to build up, just taking an age to release his passes, and all it does is allow Bruce to shuffle and get back into shape. And then when they're trying to defend, they are wide open. You could drive up, not just a bus, a fleet of buses through the Rangers midfield and defence at times. So, listen, obviously they get a goal back through Danilo in the second half. Really unlucky not to get a second one. A few of the boys sitting around me were flapping writing their match reports, because they'd spent the previous 80 minutes pretty much picking apart this Rangers performance. Didn't quite see a stirring comeback in it, but I must say, I mean, I think Rangers would have been really fortunate if they'd get anything more than one goal back tonight. I just didn't think, even though they improved second half, that first half was so bad that they have. I think Russell Martin's got some real concerns about where him and his team are going right now, because heading to Paisley on Sunday, we all know that's been a difficult venue for Rangers. They lost to that team twice last season. If they trip up there, then he is in big bother.
Well, Andy, I wanted to ask you about the team selection. But before I do that, we've got some comments on Russell Martin. And if you're watching at home, please get involved in the conversation. We'll try and read out your comments. I'm actually really a bit surprised, Andy, at how vociferous the comments are towards Martin. I mean, Luke, as a regular Rangers fan, he says, fans want him out, and at your next press conference, you need to tell them that they want him out now. John says, the sooner the 49ers realise they've dropped a clanger by appointing Martin, they can start another rebuild. Sean says, 5 games coming up, will Martin see them all? And Paul says, is the St Mirren game at the weekend a must-win for Russell Martin? Are we already in that territory, Andy?
I think so, because of how vociferous the reaction has been here. I mean, put it this way, I think, listen, if you are dropping points and end up they're already 4 points behind Celtic and other teams at the top of the table. If they were to fall any further behind before, the kids have just basically went back to school this week. The end of the first week of term, if you're 6, 7, maybe 9 points behind. I mean, that is just 6 or 7 points behind. That is just incredible. So I think he is in real trouble here. I think he needs a reaction, and a reaction quick. Whether that's enough to get them through in the Champions League, I'm not so sure. Listen, I think going what I saw tonight, Europa League was definitely a kinder environment to this team. I don't think they're anywhere near ready to be going in with the big boys in Europe. Nowhere near it.
I mentioned the team, Andy. Were you surprised at the team we went with today? Obviously, Jaden Magoma come in right from the start. I know he obviously set up the goal for Danilo, but how did you see his debut? How did you think he got on?
I think he had a really torrid first 45 minutes. The lad Forbes, it was Carlos Forbes down the right-hand side for Bruges, was terrific. And every time, especially that first 20 minutes, any time he came inside, he was just going past Magoma for fun. But I thought, to be fair, the kid, 19-year-old, flung into the deep end. Only met his teammate, only signed on Sunday night. He probably had one training session with the team. I thought he rallied really well. Obviously, has a big part in the goal. It was just interesting, There's a moment in the first half he had a bit of a bust up with John Suter. He was trying to take a quick throw, and he was looking for Suter to come over and and show for the throw in, and Suter gave him a bit back, and I think it just summed up just how disharmonious this team is right now. It's simply not clicking. I think there's people in the team that are not quite sure of what they're supposed to be doing. Nico Raskin, a guy that was, Rangers standout performer last year. At times that first half, he just had absolutely no idea where he was supposed to be. I don't think he's grasped or he's understanding what Russell Martin's asking him to do, or the instructions haven't been clear enough. Joe Rothwell was sort of nudged forward into a more advanced role, but far too safe in his passing. Every time he gets in the ball, his first instinct seems to be back. And same for Max Aarons on the other side. Here's a guy that was sort of supposed to be coming in to take over from James Tavernier. James Tavernier is now 33. His best days are evidently behind him. He's in and out of the team right now. And he absolutely does not look like an upgrade on James Tavernier. Far from it. And again, his confidence looks utterly short every time he gets in the ball. This is supposed to be a guy who's cut from the same cloth as Tavernier, a winger, a right back, who bombs forward as an attacking fullback and will get into the final third. His first instinct every time is just to cut back inside and play safe. So again, maybe that's the instructions, but I don't know. I mean, the fans were on his back early from the get-go, and he just seemed to shrink under the pressure.
That's the exact point I was going to make to Andy. Robert in the comments says, absolute garbage defence, a nightmare again. That is the one thing that screamed out to me. I know James Tavernier's got detractors, I know he's have you. You never convinced me Max Aarons is an upgrade on Tavernier. No chance.
Not in this evidence so far. And again, this is still a James Tavernier that has been far from convincing himself this season. A guy who was responsible for the goal that Rangers conceded at Fir Park this season. So, listen, I think Rangers have got some big issues that need to sort, and there's only a couple of weeks left to the window. They've already spent a huge amount, £20 million so far. The 10 new signings in. By the way, they've still got a load of bodies they need to clear out, because there's still guys like Ben Davies, like Rabbi Matondo, like Jose Cifuentes. There's another list of them that I can't even remember now. Clutting up the wage bill, and these guys need to be cleared out. But I would say obviously they brought in one left back. He did okay, the kid, Jaden Magoma, but As a 19-year-old who's played a handful of games at first team level, is that really what they're relying on to get them through the season? I still think we need a centre forward. I mean, I wrote a piece in yesterday's paper, sort of calling for Hamza Gamani to sort of get the nod. He came on, he showed flashes. Danilo gets the goal, but I still think this is a team that is really crying out for a powerful, authoritative, somebody with personality at the top end of the pitch. I think that's what they lack. And again, the blended midfield. He's tried 3-4 different combinations. Obviously, he spoke last week, Russell Martin, about he was asked, could you ever see a team with an occasion where we play Nico Raskin and Joe Rothwell together? He did that tonight. He pushed Rothwell in that more advanced role. But he just plays so safe. And this was a night where, especially when you're 3-0 down, you need to be bold and you need to take risks, but attacking risk and calculated risk. And Rangers just never did that. They had a bit of a go in the second half, but I don't think Bruges ever really looked totally panicked. There was a brief spell where the crowd got up, and obviously maybe if that goal that Gassama pokes through the hands of Simon Mignolet, that might have set up a grandstand finish. But again, I'm not entirely sure you can say that Rangers would have deserved to get a draw out tonight, given just how awful they were in that first half. It was quite shocking how bad they were.
Paul in the comments, Andy, is one of a few people pointing out, why did Russell Martin not make a change at half time? Did he think his team was playing well for him? Were you quite surprised that he didn't ring the changes at the break?
I did. I was, yeah. But I think, I wonder if it's. Obviously, I haven't been down to the press conference yet. Russell Martin will expect to be speaking shortly. That's obviously certainly something that needs to be asked of him. I would think it's maybe something to do with just one of these sports science things. Obviously, the guys you would have thought they would have been looking to get on the pitch. Mikey Moore's only played, one game at the weekend, having sort of been his move was held up by red tape. Obviously, Taylor Asgard has had a 20-minute run out, I think, having missed 3-4 weeks of training. Hamza Gamani arrives 2 weeks back late because of a visa mix-up and then gets injured against Panathinaikos, so he's not fully fit. I wonder if they've just been told. It was funny because as soon as they got to the hour mark, those two were certainly were thrown on. I just wonder if it's a sports science thing. They were the guys telling them they're not allowed to, they're not fit enough to play more than that. We saw Philippe Clement was a real stickler for that last season, even at times when he could do with. We could have been doing with some of the other guys. I remember, Václav Černý against Dynamo Kyiv. We could have been doing with starting him, but all the advice he was given was no, he has to start on the bench. So I just wonder if Russell Martin's taking similar advice.
Aye. I know, Andy, very conscious that you've got post-match duties to get on with. So a couple other questions, then I'll let you get away. William is asking, did Rangers really improve in the second half, or did Bruges take their foot off the gas? And you mentioned the disallowed goal. See, for what it's worth, I completely agree that Rangers, didn't really deserve it out the game. But I thought that was a really harsh decision. I thought it looked 50-50 to me.
Yeah, I only got a chance to have a look at a couple of replays. It's one of those ones. I think it's the rule. Thinking back to my Saturday morning amateur days, is the ball under control? I'm not so sure the ball had stopped moving at that point. But if the keepers get hands on the ball, then and if you're kicking through it, I think today's referees are always going to blow up for that one. And I think undoubtedly they played better. But I wrote in the blog this evening that they couldn't have been much worse in the first half. So that's not saying much. They were better. Listen, is that the second half performance? Is the return of Taylor Asgard, Mikey Moore, Hamza Gamani? Is that enough to give them hope? I'm not so sure. I think Bruges are a good enough team to maintain a 2-goal cushion. I don't see Rangers outscoring them by 2 more goals in their own stadium. I think tonight was an opportunity where they had to get something. Even a draw might have given them a chance of taking extra time or whatever next week. But I think they've blown a massive opportunity. I mean, as I say, I'm not so sure that going to the Champions League would have been too kind on them. £40 million would have been nice, certainly for the club's new owners. But if you get in there with the real big boys, this is a team that gets so much work needing done on it. Recruitment-wise, coaching wise, mentality wise, undoubtedly, because you saw they lost a terrible start, but they then compounded that with 2 more terrible errors. I think a team with a strong mentality brushes that off and goes again. But we've been saying this for so long about this team, even the new recruits. But again, it's the guys who have been here for a long time that we're letting them down. I mean, Giga makes a terrible miscalculation when he fails to spot Butland coming, but if Butland comes off his line, and by the way, he came a long way off his line, he was outside his box, and then stopped going back. I mean, that is rule number 1 as a goalkeeper. If you're going to come out your box, you need to come all the way. You can't come and stop. So, again, I think Jack Butland has been terrific so far this season, but that is a kind of reminder of the blunder that he was making regular last season, and I think this will be the concern now for Russell Martin, because they obviously took a gamble not bringing in a goalkeeper this season, hoping that Jack Butland could find his best. And I think the concern will be if he has made one mistake, does that lead to more? Does that crack the confidence that he's done? He's worked so hard all summer to rebuild, and I think he's been. Rangers might not have been at this stage of the Champions League were it not for some of the saves he made against Panathinaikos and Victoria Pilsen. So yeah, that's something that needs to be watched carefully in the next few days as well.
Just very finally, Andy, Paul says, it is possible Rangers will lose their next 3 games? Obviously St Mirren, the return against Bruges, Celtic. Are we really
throwing Hearts as well against that? That's not a gimme either right now, especially with this Rangers team's playing. So I think Russell Martin's in serious. I think he needs a win. I think he needs a win, a statement win, and a performance, and he needs it quick. And he needs a few of them, because I think if he loses Old Firm, even a win at St Mirren, even if he can salvage some pride somehow next week in Bruges, okay, that might buy him some time. But if he loses that Old Firm game after everything the punters have seen before, listen, I think already a lot of them have already written him off. I think there's already punters that are. You see it yourself. Go and have a look at the comments in the social media responses to the club press conferences. Go and look at people calling it the hotline.
We saw fans leaving after 20 minutes. When did you ever see that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people already made their minds up, and those that haven't might be persuaded if he can dig out not just a win, but a big win, a meaningful, a meaningful win in a meaningful game pretty soon. Beating St Mirren, that's not going to cut it, I'm afraid. This is Rangers. Rangers are supposed to be challenging for titles. This is what he was here to do. That's what the stated intention of the club's new owners were, that they're here to win. That's what they've said, and so far they're a long way short of that.
Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Hotline Live tonight. I know how much pressure you're under in these post-match nights, so I'll let you get on and get cracking with your work for the paper. And anyone watching, you can read all of Andy's post-match stuff in the Record Sport online. Andy, thank you very much.
Cheers, my man. Thank you. See you soon.
Cheers, Andy. Andy Newport there from Ibrox, and I'm actually left on my own son because Keith Jackson is on his holidays. But thank you very much for all the comments tonight. We massively appreciate it. We'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow, when we'll be looking ahead to Celtic's crucial Champions League qualifier against Kairat Almaty. So thank you once again for all the comments. We hope you can join us tomorrow. Thanks for watching.